seconds. Hey everybody, welcome to our November SLT. What's up? Today we have our student representative who is going to be our facilitator. So I'm going to pass this off to Julian, who's going to get us started on our agenda.
Hi everyone, my name is Julian. I'm the student government president. I'm going to be facilitating today. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, which you should all have received by email. I'm going to open the floor if anyone has any edits that need to be made. Otherwise, we can vote to approve them. I don't see any hands, so if there are no changes, can I see a motion to approve the minutes? I see a motion. Can I see a second? Yes. Okay. Our minutes have been approved. I think we did an amazing job with that agenda item. We had 10 minutes allotted, and I think we did it in about 30 seconds. So on track for a good meeting. Mr.
Wasowski, general reminder, you're our secretary for today. Okay.
Next up on our agenda is the principal's update from Mr. Yu.
Great. Thanks, Julian. Way to get us through the first part as quickly as you did. So I'm going to touch on 4 different updates. Hopefully Dr. Haber will join because he's going to be joining in around the Psat administration. But just a few updates want to give everyone, and this came up, I think it's possible, some agenda items. So one, just an update on the spring programming planning. We are working on this with our programming chair and team. We are working with our department chairs to see, again, what courses we're going to be looking to offer again in the spring. And again, we're thinking that we're going to be in the same position that we started in the beginning of the year and throughout the summer, which is the same approach and model that we are currently following. Again, based upon what we had initially set, we wanted to ensure that we were able to have the majority of the course catalog that we've previously had, and wanting to make sure our Stuyvesant teachers are teaching our students and not relying on substitutes. And so this is what we had planned for in the beginning of the year so that it could easily translate into the spring, as well as being able to transition accordingly if we were to have to go back and all students were going to be allowed back into the building. So we're going to continue with our approach, and as we speak, we're working with our department chairs and our program chair to set the stage for the spring programming, with the goal that we're going to be able to offer as many courses as we were able to do in the fall and continue forth with this. And once we get this settled with our department chairs, we will be reaching out to students, again, similar to what we did in the fall around courses that would be available. This came up around the admissions process and what's the situation with the Shazat. At this point, we have not gotten any additional details. The last press piece that I'd seen around the mayor was that the Shazat will be offered, possibly even online. We're not sure about any of this. This was, again, via a press piece from the New York Post. And so, we're waiting to hear around the administration of the exam, and again, around what's going to happen with that in terms of timeline. My assumption is because of all the things that are happening currently with COVID-19 and closure of school buildings, they're going to have to reevaluate and see again what they can do for the timetable for the Shazat. But I think it's important to know, again, Bronx Science, Brooklyn Tech, and Stuyvesant are governed by at the state with the act and using the Shazat as the admissions for these 3 specialized high schools. So we're going to continue to stay in touch with the DOE on this. We've done some follow-up and waiting to hear word from them if there's any other details, and we will continue to update accordingly. November sign up for blended students. Again, the window closed on November 15th. And so we are reconciling the list that we have. Currently what we have is close to 400 students that are signed up for blended. If and when that happens, potentially in December or thereafter, once the decision is made when the school buildings will reopen. But with that being said, what we're going to be looking to do around the students who will be coming into the building is trying to regroup them so that we can make sure that we're looking at open periods and possible ways that we can do more socialization opportunities. We had discussed that previously, as we were looking at our pods, and again, we'll continue to do that so we can try to systematize when students have open periods and when they can be able to engage and interact with different students within their pod and being able to do so safely. So we're currently in the works on that. And again, as we've gotten the list for students who signed up for blended, how we're going to be able to do that and regrouping accordingly. And so once we get more details around kind of the reopening, we'll be providing that as well to the students. Something to take note that's been in different press pieces with the mayor is that the consent form for testing looks like it's going to be required. So we continue to encourage our families and students who did sign up for blended to make sure you get that in. Again, we're trying to keep the entire community safe. And so the testing will be one of the key features here. And so for those students and families who have not submitted the consent form and are blended, please make sure you do that as soon as you can. And I know Ms. Ingram will be sending off a reminder to do so. So one other item that's been a big emphasis is around PSAT administration. As I've said before, we had been looking at this because we had heard and gotten feedback that this was important, particularly for our 11th graders. Again, we've indicated before, there's a lot of factors involved here and whether or not we could do so safely and whether or not we would be even able to do so with all the different factors that are at play here. So I've asked Dr. Haber to kind of give an overview of all the things that we currently know and the things that we don't know, and kind of where we are with this, and ultimately how we'll have to be able to make a decision fairly soon of whether or not we can do the administration of the PSAT. So Dr. Haber, can you chime in on this?
So I'm going to move to a chart, share. So here we have, what we know about the PSAT, the upcoming PSAT, which is slated for January 26, 2021. What we know as of right now, what we don't know, and then what's needed to prepare for the possible administration of this examination. So we do know that the exam was canceled, that we know that the DOE encouraged all students, well, there's no cancellation fees, and that we know that that the medical accommodations have now been extended for all the teachers and counselors. And we also know that the SATs can be used in lieu of the PSAT for the National Merit Scholarship. And we have over 800 students in the junior class, so we would have to make sure we have proper availability of rooms and proctors for students with accommodations, and that we have enough proctors period to do such an administration. Now, in a COVID environment, we spoke about this before. We're looking to, if we did it at the school, we're looking upward to a maximum of 400 students is what can be done based on the social distancing, and we would need over 100 proctors to do more than 100 proctors to do that. Now we have not heard. We know that the PSAT was canceled by the DOE in the fall, the DOE sponsored administration, but they did say that schools can make their own choice about the PSAT. Since then, or since last meeting, the regents were canceled in January. The New York State Education Department canceled the regents. And there's also a question can students that are remote, are they able to come to the building? The blended students, of course, but what about the remote students? Are they able to come to the building? And then that's not been made clear. The executive orders given by the governor, these involve the restrictions of gatherings. I have spoken to the sales manager at the Jacob Javits Center, and he was very excited when I first called, and he said, you know, they actually did bar exam there a few years ago, in a bar exam, so he's familiar with large scale exams. But then I got a letter back from him yesterday saying that despite communications with the governor's office, the limit is 50 people. 50 people per room is the limit. That's, you know, statewide, and it applies to the Jacob Javits Center too. So kind of like they kind of defeats any purpose that the Jacob Javits Center could have had to. We had a huge space. We're looking at a huge space, and it could have been done. But then that's not, at least at this point in time, he cannot offer it to us. And then of course, if we did have a positive case during this, you know, if we had it during the administration, you know, what would the, you know, ramifications be? And over in the third column, I have, you know, what actions are needed, a calendar change. We've done that before. We did that the last 2 years. Whereas we asked the superintendent and the DOE for, you know, to allow us to not to have a non-instructional day. It's a Regents Day, but it probably will be an instructional day. So we will need to apply for a non-instructional day, and the PA would have to approve that also. Of course, I see no issue with that, since the PA has been very much in support of offering the PSAT. I just want, you know, I know that the chances of something happening are, you know, are not something happening or not huge, but the Scarsdale case, there's a case in Scarsdale. They ran a PSAT in the fall in Scarsdale, and in fact, 80 people tested positive and, you know, quarantined for a considerable amount of time. So although it, you know, it probably other PSATs were given and without a problem, this one was a problem. Any questions on this matter?
Let me just also chime in on this. I mean, these are the things that we're having to consider. And clearly, you know, there are things outside of our control here, you know, as we're trying to plan and see what are the possibilities. You know, again, the uptick with COVID and then the school building closure, you know, we don't have a timeline yet about any of this. And so, again, I think, you know, what Dr. Haber's trying to showcase here is, again, you know, here's currently the things that we can, you know, are factors that are helping us, you know, make some decisions, while at the same time, here are some of the limitations. And again, I think there are lots of implications here, and particularly, you know, as much as there is a desire for administering the PSAT, you know, we've ultimately got to make some decisions around the safety of students and staff. And, you know, again, I think part of this is up, you know, with the reopening of the school buildings, if in fact, you know, everyone's going to be required to for the consent form, you know, what does that mean about students who are remote, who would then potentially be entering the building? What are the, you know, kind of requirements for students to be able to do that? And so, you know, again, these are things that, you know, Dr. Haber's pieced together that the administration is going to have to look at and determine ultimately what can be done. You know, and again, I think this is a personnel issue. This is a safety issue. This is a logistical issue that we've got to factor in about what the possibilities are. And again, we're waiting to hear from the DOE about any guidance about Regents Week and how that week should be used. Again, January 26th is the PSAT date, which is that first day of Regents Week. And again, trying to best determine how to best move forward, knowing that we also need to make a decision very soon, so that again we can plan accordingly for that day and beyond. But you know, I think ultimately we're trying to lay out to some of the different factors that, you know, we think everyone needs to consider. particularly with the fact that PSAT, the reason why I think they asked to administer is around the National Merit Scholarship. And as Dr. Haber alluded to, SAT scores can be used for that qualification. And so, these are all considerations that we will use as an administration, and then be able to, and we'll make a decision soon around what we can and can't do. Okay. And then the last update, this came up around guidance counselor check-ins with students. So I'm going to ask Ms. Pedrick to offer some insights here. There has been quite a bit of work happening, and we just want to make sure that we're unveiling that to everyone as well. So Ms. Pedrick.
Okay, thank you, Principal Yu. We have a really wonderful and robust school counseling and college counseling program at Stuyvesant with 17 individuals all together between school counselors, college counselors, our SAPIS counselor, and our full-time clinical social worker. The individual school counselors are doing, or the school counselors are doing individual outreaches periodically as needed, regular check-ins or needed check-ins based on teacher feedback or parent feedback. And then they are also holding many formal workshops. So we have a number of freshman homeroom workshops, check-ins, seminars, whatever you want to call them. So that is our concentration a lot in the fall, helping to make sure that our freshman students are getting acclimated to the school. So just looking at September, October, and November, what's on the books from the school counseling department, just in these 3 months, we're having 153 freshman check-ins. So there's a variety of ways to do that in homerooms and small groups. This is combining also the wonderful Big Sibs mix and match that they did this month, which was such a fabulous idea. So rather than just having, and they've done 2 sets of these, and rather than just having homerooms meeting within their homerooms, the Big Sibs are able to run 2 different times of having the homerooms mix and match with one another, so that they're getting to see more than just the usual faces in their one homeroom. So that was a fabulous idea. We have 15 sophomore meetings, 7 junior, 12. The 12th graders have had 7 formal meetings, but that's definitely false advertising, because the seniors had a number of one-on-one check-ins to be able to put the final touches on their letters of recommendation for college. In addition, we've had some specialty outreaches. We've had 6 sessions of our Stuck at Home Coping Skills group, led by our clinical social worker, Jessica Chalk-Goldman. We've had 4 organization workshops run by Ms. Oy, and many more in the works. So we're closing in on 200 formal outreaches in the kind of group settings, and then too numerous to share individual check-ins. It's email, Google Chat, Zoom, phone conferences, etc. So doing a great job with a lot of the outreach. And then please, students, you can absolutely do an outreach to your school counselors and parents. Should you feel that your child needs a specific check-in, please let the school counselor know.
Sorry, folks. I have, and I'm sorry about this. My wife just cut her finger pretty badly, and I need to take her. That's why I was off. I need to take her to the hospital. I know this is so strange. I am really sorry
Goodbye.
about this. I've been trying to text everyone. I am really sorry.
No.
Ms. Pedrick and Ms. Ingram are going to talk about the CEP, and then I know there's been conversations around
We
the
got it.
testing.
We got this.
Okay.
You can go.
Okay.
Go,
Bye.
go,
Sorry.
go.
Bye. Thank you.
Jeez.
Ew.
Okay, I know how you feel about blood. Let's focus and keep moving forward. We can do this. We can do this. Get the visual image out of your head and go forward.
That concluded my portion of the report. If anybody want to talk about their feelings about blood, they can reach out to their school counselor. Other than that, what's the next item on the agenda?
Were there any other components to Mr. Yu's update that need to be shared? Otherwise, I
Yeah.
need to go to questions.
No, I think, Ms. Ingram, do you have something?
No, I think that he was going to cover a testing component, but I do not have his notes. So
Okay, then, and
I think
you're
we
going,
should leave that
you
until
have the
next meeting.
CEP. I got you. Okay.
Okay, I see Mr. Henderson has his hand raised. I don't know if that's still applicable.
Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I'm sorry, Dr. Haber. I was just curious with the PSAT problems, which sound really frustrating, and thank you for wading through them. That makes me really nervous about the AP tests. Do we have any sense of whether they're planning on having them remote again this year, or are they just sort of hoping that we can all be back and do it in the class?
I'm very much pleased that you asked this question because it has not been asked yet. And it's what keeps me up at night. And that is, how would we possibly administer the AP exams in May if we had to do it in-house with a 25% capacity, knowing that we run classes the same days we run AP exams. So I am hoping, and I have expressed my strong desire to the College Board that they do offer it this year remotely. They're not going to give us, just like, the state waited until, I guess, 2 months before they waited to tell us they weren't going to do the regents. I'm hoping that they give us as much lead time as possible with the AP exams. Yeah, thank you for that. But I saw our SLT chair going no, and she's absolutely right. There's no guidance at all. We get it. We get it. Probably all at the same time, and that's that.
Thanks, Dr. Haber. I see Ms. Davis has her hand raised next.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to put it down. I'm going to put it back up in a minute. I just need to check something before I say something.
Okay, I see Ms. Maggio put her name in the chat.
Mr. Henderson, I've been attending a bunch of PDs and stuff with the other AP teachers and who've been in communication with the College Board. And as of right now, the College Board stance is that it's the tests are going to be live unless, and then there might be modifications depending on what your school district looked like at the time, but it's too early for them to tell or to make any calls. So to assume that there'll be no cut to content and that the test will be given live until further notice.
I see Miss Yu's hand next.
Yes, my question is, with the vaccination coming out, is that going to change anything?
That I can just say that it's as it stands right now. It's in the coordinator's guide that the assumption is that it's going to be done in the school, the AP exams, if that's what you're referring to. It's in the AP coordinator's guide, and also that has also been confirmed. I do call the College Board at times for different reasons, and I asked that question too, and I expressed my concern regarding the same.
I don't see any other comments from SLT members, so we have some alternate hands. Ms. Giordano.
Dr. Haber, I just had a question. You said if we were able to administer the PSAT, it would be 400 students. That doesn't seem to be a 25% capacity of the school, or is it, with social distancing?
Thank you to allow me to clarify on that number. So this is my third year for two. I've had two PSAT administrations. Both administrations, there were over 1,600 students in both administrations. Almost every single student comes to the PSAT in the fall. So let's just use a round number of 1,600, and that's where I'm getting my 400 number from. We're going from 30, 32, 34 in a class to 8 with social distancing, and that's how I arrived at that number. That doesn't include the students with accommodations that need different rooms, and they'll need more and more rooms because they'll be the same social distancing. But I even accounting for that, I'm comfortable with that number. I believe that number could be done if we have the personnel to support it. First, if it's allowed by the DOE, many hurdles as we spoke about, but then if we have one of the hurdles, do we have the personnel to administer that exam? It requires 2 teachers for each classroom, over 50 classrooms. Over 50 classrooms, there's over 100. It's actually, that's not including the students with accommodations. So it's labor intensive. We've done it. It can be done, but there's just all these hurdles. That's why I'm not saying that we're not. I didn't say to, and I didn't tell Mr. When I spoke to Mr. Shaffron too. And I'm not going to say we're not going to do this. We're going to keep an open mind and see what can be done. And I did order the exams. I ordered the exams. I ordered for the entire 11th grade. I ordered the exams for the PSAT. And also one further thing just to add, I also contacted my counterparts at Bronx Science and at Brooklyn Tech, the APOs. They are in the exact same position, whereas there's, people want the test and, they just don't have a clue on how, not a clue, there's just many issues in trying to how to deliver, how to provide the test, to administer the test. So it's the same, and I guess you would say the sister schools.
Thank you, Dr. Haber. I see Mr. Jashenkar's hand up now.
Yeah, I realized it was just commenting on the concern that Mr. Henderson brought up with PSATs and with going into AP, and because with Alders, I think the AP exams are a much bigger priority. Because I also was curious if anyone had talked, if Dr. Haber, if you had talked to the College Board, if they had looked in any way of offering those remotely, the PSAT or the SAT, because they did have somewhat of a pilot run last year with APs. There were issues with it, obviously, but that's why they call it a pilot. Did they think about trying to go in that direction at any point in any of your conversations, or did it never come up? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, they listened to me intently and acknowledged my concerns. Whether or not that translates into anything, I think we need to put, if anyone has contacts there, we all need to, just express our concern regarding that. Just for this next year, for one more year, to do it remotely for one more year, and then back to.
Okay, thank you.
I'm really sorry to interrupt. Okay, cool. I just needed to state for the record and for the minutes that Principal Yu has designated Dr. Haber as his designee now that he is no longer in the meeting for our quorum. Mr. Wasowski, you got that? Okay, cool. Sorry to interrupt, Julian.
We have Ms. Murdoch next, and then Ms. Nedwick-Moore.
Thank you. So Dr. Haber, just wanted to clarify. So this PSAT is only for the juniors on January, right? And then for seems like the challenge that we face is how we're going to contain all these juniors in one building. Is that the issue that we need to figure out?
Yes. That is one of the issues, that, and also the personnel permission to do so. Cost is not, cost is an issue. We have to purchase more public address, but that's not the issue. We can take care of that, but it's there's approximately 50 rooms that are suitable for giving testing, but about 50 rooms. So it's eight students in a room plus the proctor, and there it is, and that's the 400. We have over 800 students in the junior class.
Dr. Nedwick-Moore.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. My question centers around the fact that the College Board sort of changed everything midstream last year. And I'm just wondering, Dr. Haber, if they've given you a timeline about when they will decide whether they're going to try to do a sit-down exam or an online exam. I'm just wondering that much information. Have they given you any timeline about when they're going to release that?
No.
All right, so we won't know until we're upon the exam administration, exactly what's going to happen.
And after we've collected all the fees from all the parents, and it's and once we'll be collecting the fees in January, and I don't know if we'll even know then.
Okay. Thank you.
This is our 2-minute warning on the subject. I think we only have one more question from Mr. Henderson. So unless there's any others, I think we should be right on schedule. So Mr. Henderson, the floor is yours.
I'll be quick. Dr. Haber, you said if anybody has any contacts at the College Board, that we should investigate them. David Coleman, the CEO of the College Board, went to Stuyvesant and graduated in the late 1980s. He's been at Stuyvesant before, so somebody does. I don't know him, but people who have been around later, but before, definitely have contact.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Henderson. So I see that we have no more questions. We've finished up our principals update section of the meeting. Our next session is the review of the CEP, Comprehensive Education Plan goals, and I think that's going to go to Ms. Ingram now.
So I am deferring to the SLT member, Ms. Pedrick, and also because it's college and career related goals and it's her area. So she'll cover that.
Thank you, Ms. Ingram. So in the preliminary goals, the first one that's just in the list, in the iPlan portal, it's called the College Career Civic Readiness, or CCCR goal or category. That really is misleading, because in actuality, all of the categories that you have to choose from have to do with regions, advanced regions with designations, that type of thing. So the one that has been chosen for Stuyvesant is that by August 2021, that all students will increase 5 points from 89% on track to earn an advanced regions diploma to 94% as measured by advanced regions designation for graduation. The second one there is by graduation rate. So I guess I should back up and say we have specific categories for those of you who may have been around on SLT for many, many years. Starting last year, the DOE had us, all schools, choose their goals in specific categories. So for the graduation rate category, by August 2021, the graduation rate for all students in grade 12 will increase 2 percentage points from 96% from the previous school year to 98% as measured by credit accumulation and New York State Regents exams results. And since I'm reading off something, I'm not looking at the Zoom, so, oh, it's on the screen. Thanks, whoever did that. So probably Ms. Ingram. So the next one, which is now really small, is about quality the individualized education plans, or IEPs. Now, again, these are categories that are each school has to see to in their goals. We have 21 students who have IEPs at the present time. So this is going to sound like a small number, but we're starting with a small number. So we're looking to strengthen the quality and implementation of IEPs for all students with disabilities, and we'll improve the IEP reviews, which are done anyway across all schools in a formal sense through the DOE. So we will improve the IEP reviews to create greater coherence and consistency across instruction as measured by alignment of IEPs across present levels of performance, or PLAP is one of the favorite acronyms of the DOE and with students with disabilities. The goals, recommended programs and services. So we're saying that 7 IEPs, or 1/3 of the IEPs, will be reviewed as part of the assessment. So just a little extra explanation of the present levels of performance. This is the area of a student IEP that defines the unique needs related to the student's disabilities and the current level of functioning. Those are my 3. I think I'm going to pass it along to my colleague here.
So the last goal that we set is based on the New York City School Survey, and Mr. Yu did want to outline all 4 of these goals we had to choose. They are in the categories that are chosen for us by the DOE. So That is why they are based on these. Some people might ask that, especially about our graduation rate. Why would we make that a goal when we're such a good, great school? But they are dictated by the DOE. So the one based on the New York City school survey, we did experience, as the whole city did because of COVID, a drop in our participation rates for the New York City survey. If we remember, it was back in March, right as we left the building. So it was not exactly the main focus of anybody's year to fill out the survey. So that we took that into consideration. The DOE has that in print on the survey results, that these numbers you'll see are not, our percentage points are not as high as they normally are, but that was reflective throughout the city. So when we're looking at the goals, we wanted to represent all three constituencies in our largest area that we looked at when we analyzed for improvement. So it's a three-part goal for students, parents, and teachers, reflective in hopefully in the 2021 survey with improvement. So by August 2021, the New York City School Survey for the student group will increase 3 percentage points from 61% to 64%, as measured by personal attention and support under the supportive environment in the NYC School Survey. So those are sections in the New York City survey when you get the results, and I think they will be posted, if they're not already, on the DOE website. And you'll see that we do have 6 categories, and Stuyvesant, even though we had a low percentage point of participation, but we did improve in 5 out of the 6 areas. So this was the area we focused on nonetheless. So we'll be trying to raise it in 3 percentage points across all of these. The second part is on our teacher group responses. By August 2021, New York City School Survey for the teacher group will increase 3 percentage points from 66 to 69%, as measured by quality of professional development under collaborative teachers in the New York City School Survey. And then the third point is for our parents' responses. By August 2021, the New York City School Survey for, oh, that's teacher group, sorry. I thought I read parent before, will increase 3 percentage points by 82% to 85%, as measured by program coherence under effective school leadership in the New York City School Survey. So these are all going to be measured on the metric that you see on that side of the screen there. The measurement tools that we're using to judge our growth are the email logs in Talos, our online gradebook communication, because our teachers can use that as communication tools as well as Talos, and then of course by analyzing next year's data when we get the school survey stats, which you'll be doing as a group soon with the CEP. You'll be analyzing all of those survey stats for this year. And that covers all of the goals.
Thank you, Ms. Ingram and Ms. Pedrick. So we had this Google Doc was shared with SLT members prior to the meeting, and there was an opportunity to leave comments. And there was only one comment left, and it was a question. So I see. Okay, I see a hand now. Okay, so we'll open up the floor, and if anyone has any questions or comments, they can ask them. Ms. Murdoch.
Yes, just one question for the NYC school survey. I see the student group and teacher group. Is it parents group needed or not?
Yeah, so I actually, like I said, I had thought that the last one was parent group, and I will speak to Mr. Yu, but I think that the teacher, in analyzing the school survey, there is one of these that actually is reflective of parents' response along with it. So we'll get back to you on that since he's not here. But I did earlier think that that said parents.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Okay, I do not see anybody's hands raised, which would make this item, we allotted 45 minutes. We have a lot of extra time. Ms. Pedrick or Ms. Ingram, are there any other closing remarks maybe on the schedule for this or next steps about what this is going to look like?
The next steps are for each principal to present these to their superintendent. It's in something, as I mentioned, called the iPlan portal, which is used for, within the DOE. So at any time the superintendent can access this, it's up there now to be able to give us feedback or support for our goals.
Perfect. Okay. So, unless I see any other hands, which I don't, I think we are ready to move on to our next and almost final agenda item of the meeting, which is observations and suggestions related to testing for the administration and department chair consideration. Now, I know Principal Yu was planning to give an opening remark on this, but he's not here right now. And
Yeah, Julian, I can just do a quick summary just because we've had a bunch of conversations about this.
Sure.
So the whole idea here is just the administration, particularly the principal, wants to hear from the parents and from the teachers and from the students our feedback and our observations based on how testing is going and what testing looks like and what ideas we have for making it better. And that from the information that the administrators get from us tonight, they're then going to go back and consider what changes, if any, or for the administrators, the department heads to go back and talk to their teachers, and then from within the building for consideration on any testing issues that need to be addressed. So we're looking at the SLT here as a consultative body to come with ideas and issues more than, and then to use that as guidance to make any corrections at the admin level that needs to happen. Okay. So yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Maggio.
Yeah.
So this item was suggested by the student constituency, and so we have Shivali and Sarai who are going to give a brief presentation. We were going to do a PowerPoint, not going to do a PowerPoint, and then we'll open it up. I see there's some hands from teachers that are raised. So Shivali and Sarai, take it away.
Hey, thank you, Julian. So Sarai, Julian, and I, and a couple other students kind of met together before this, and we thought it was important just to kind of have a more consistent idea or agreement around what testing policy is, and in general, just the academic policy and the way it's been enforced this year. So we just had a few points we wanted to bring up, and I guess I'll start off first with the fact that there's a lot of different views on this. So in general, our main thought and opinion would be to have a greater conversation about this later on, maybe in a subcommittee, which is something we really want to push for. But Sarai, do you want to start off with some of our main goals?
Yeah, I think that just a preliminary thing to understand is that we know that teachers are having a really tough time too. And I can't speak for every student, but the AP classes that I'm taking, I feel horrible seeing my teachers cram in like months and months of material into very little time within really short classes and a weird like 2-day schedule. So I guess what we're trying to do, Shivali and I, is really just introduce a bridge of communication between the two bodies so that, students understand, well, there's a lot of pressure on teachers and we can communicate what we need for testing and how we can best perform and best adapt to this new situation. I think we have a list of 3 things that we think would be particularly good if Shivali wants to start introducing.
Yeah, so last year when we transitioned into remote learning, Principal Contreras had kind of advocated for this, but it was never really put into place as like a strict policy. But in general, just by meeting with your class like every other day, it can be a little hard to have the consistency of like knowing what's due and when it's due and what major updates are going to be happening, especially with like the multitude of platforms that we have to go through every day to just stay updated. So we thought a major thing that we'd like to solidify is like having a 1-week reminder on the policies a 1-week reminder on tests that are coming up. So that way students aren't being told about a test 2 days before it's actually happening, and they have time to prepare and catch up, ask questions, go to office hours, just because there is like a big period or break in between each class.
Another thing we thought was really important is just clarifying the way that office hours could work. I know that a lot of teachers, I assume everyone's now back at home, but I also understand that the scheduling can be a little weird because you don't want to be sitting an open Zoom call for an extended period of time if no students are coming. But we thought that it might make sense to have a conversation at least about whether or not we should keep office hours as like an open running call, or something that students should be expected to schedule XYZ days or hours in advance.
Yeah, and just adding on to that idea, I mentioned how there's the multiple platforms that students have to be keeping track of. When it comes to live lessons, there's so many ways that a teacher could run those, PowerPoints, lectures, whatever. And we don't think at all there should be a limit to the way teachers are running it. While it might be helpful for students, we definitely want to preserve a teacher's unique teaching style. But having some way to access the information that's given during a live session would be really helpful for students. So whether you choose to have a PowerPoint during class, like having that PowerPoint posted afterwards on Google Classroom, if you're having a lecture, like having that lecture posted, a recording of it, even if it's just the audio, doesn't have to be like the visual part of it, because it would just be like the teacher's voice. That would be really helpful. And that just goes back into testing. It's easier for students to prep and have all their information in like a singular place, so they're not like going back and forth and struggling to keep up if they do have an extenuating circumstance for live sessions.
And on that note, I think that it seems counterintuitive because it's the same information that you're seeing on a screen versus when it's printed out. But I've actually found that I have a lot of difficulty reading textbooks online. I need to have the physical thing like printed in front of me. I ended up ordering like my class materials on Amazon just because I wasn't unable to get the same level of comprehension. And so when I see PowerPoints that are posted online or like notes that I can print, it's really, really helpful because at least in my experience, it's helped solidify the content that I'm hearing and learning about via Zoom. And the last point that we thought would be helpful to introduce was just the idea of creating a regular bridge of communication between teachers and students. And this might not really be as relevant for older students. You know, once you're in senior year, it's a lot easier to reach out to teachers. But we found that a lot of freshmen, at least my little sibs, and I'm sure that other kids are having the same experience, don't really feel comfortable going directly to their teachers. And so an idea we came up with was just a regular weekly survey, something that could be like 2 or 3 questions that would just say, what material are you having difficulty with? What do you think is not being solidified within your mind? What can we do to help communicate better within class? Or what is it that you think you're having struggle or that you're struggling most with? Just so that there's a regular channel of communication that can hopefully bridge the sort of Zoom divide that we have going on right now.
Yeah, and between me, Julian, and Sarai, like I personally would prefer to be reading material online. Sarai just mentioned she likes to have it in front of her. There's not really a singular, consistent way that we like to learn or do things virtually. So these surveys also aid with that issue, even between subjects and departments. A history teacher and a math teacher aren't necessarily going to be giving tests the same way. And once again, we don't want to limit a teacher to the type test they should be giving. So these surveys would just be helping a specific teacher figure out what testing style is most helpful for them or what test prep is most helpful for them. So like even if it's just once a semester or once a month, that would be really helpful.
Are you okay? So I see we have some hands raised. Technically tonight I am not a member of the student constituency. I am an impartial facilitator. The point I will mention is that one of the ideas behind this was the eventual creation of a subcommittee, because there might be, there should be discussion to be had with this. And so I'll leave that there, and I will call on Dr. Edward Eckmore to speak.
I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me? Okay. So those are all really good points, and I only have a limited amount of time. And I'm going to address broadly the points you made about posting information, because I do that, and I think a lot of us do. The challenge is getting it right for each student. My students kind of know where the content is going to come from. They're told explicitly, and it's repeated. And I think a lot of us do that. But the challenge is the students are told about office hours, for instance, and very, very few attend. And I think different teachers run office hours different ways. We also have AIS for most of the AP classes, and very few students attend. I mean, some do, there are certain regulars, but I think emphasizing with students that these things are available and that there's help available would be a start. also the testing platforms that teachers are using can vary. Some use a Google form. My husband has come up with something that I'm using to test my students that is still very much being in development. A lot of teachers use the Juno pods, and there can be complications with some of those things but really, I think whatever the issues are, the obstacles, students need to find a way to voice those with us, because we don't see them in the same way that we used to see them. We see a square and we see an email, and it can be really tough to know what they're thinking. We can reach out, but they may not want to tell us necessarily. So we can do only so much, and a lot of that is limited by what we know of what they need. So we need them to tell us, and I feel, at least I want them to tell me. And that's all I have. And happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Jaishankar.
Anyway, I just wanted to sort of echo that. I can tell you that from the math department, we don't have AIS for the simple fact that when we ran them last year in the spring, nobody showed up. And many of us felt that, and I'm gonna, and not to sound like it's why we do it, but the only way we get paid for the AIS is if students show up. And if they're not showing up, and again, I'm not trying to say it becomes a waste of time. And why am I doing this? I stopped doing it for that reason years ago. So that's, just want to throw that out there. But as far as the student expectation for office hours, I make it very clear to my students that I'm very open to office hours, even during periods when I'm not teaching that match up with theirs and not just the 20-minute block. The one expectation that I have of them is that they email me 24 hours in advance. And I feel like I would be perfectly fine if that were some form of a policy like that would be in place, but some expectation has to be put on the students because of an accountability point of view. Yes, we teachers are accountable, but so are the students. And I think putting some form of accountability as far as attending office hours, even if it's not in that 20-minute block, if you have a period that matches up with one of ours, let us know, and I will speak for myself. I'm more than happy to sit down with a student if they're having trouble. I view that as part of my job. But I can't do it if no one's reaching out, because then I just can't. I'm not a mind reader. I'm not a Jedi. I know the Force doesn't work that way. Sorry. I wish it did. But that's the one. And then that's my one thing on the office hours. I think some of this has to come on the students, not just the teachers. But I think making it somewhat, don't be afraid to come out to us. We're here to help. And I want all of you to know that.
Thank you, Mr. Jaishankar. I see we have Shivali's hand up next.
Yeah,
Let me see.
Sorry, that I normally would call in order, but I think the proper procedure that Ms. Maggio informed me in is that if there are SLT members who have their hands up, they go before the alternate speakers.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So I'm up. Okay, cool. So I just wanted to respond to two of the like comments you guys made. I definitely agree and like totally understand from a teacher's perspective. There's like an expectation that students do ask for help when they need help, and I respect that and definitely agree with that. But going back to like the surveys that you would have weekly or monthly, it's definitely a tremendously easier way to ask for help in that form, as opposed to talking over a Zoom call or reaching out to a teacher you've in reality really never met before, which is why, like, another reason why I would be a huge supporter of having those surveys as a resource for students. And in terms of like office hours, I can speak personally, and I can also speak for a lot of my friends when I say, like, even as a junior who's been in this school for two years in person, it's like, it's hard for me to like write a whole email and ask a teacher for help when like I have no real connection to them, and it doesn't really feel that like it's not super comfortable. And also just in like a Zoom world where we're all doing extracurriculars and we all have APs and we all definitely need help in a lot of aspects of like school, it's it's not always easy to know 24 hours beforehand whether or not you need to go to office hours that day, or maybe it's something you talked about in class that you need to address before a big test. I just personally think the 24-hour rule is, it's a little bit intimidating to follow. And I would just say that teachers should try to have office hours every day that they're supposed to. And if students don't show up, then it's a blank Zoom call. It's not really someone you have to interact with. But yeah.
I see Mr. Rosatski's hand next.
Yeah, with the office hours, I mean, I'm sympathetic to getting over that that hump to reach out to a teacher that you might not have met before, or even during the school years. When we're in school, I'm sorry, I've heard kids say the same thing, but I mean, that's one of the challenges of going to school, and that's one of the ways in which students grow over the 4 years that they're at Stuyvesant. I don't know how else to say it, but you have to get over that hump somehow and reach out to that teacher. And you know what, if you have trouble, the other thing is you can go to guidance. You can reach out to your guidance counselor who you should have a relationship with, or your big sib, whoever you should have a relationship with, and ask them to help you. You know, a big sib might take you to their guidance counselor. You could go to your guidance counselor on your own, and the guidance counselor could reach out. I've had that happen before too, to make that connection for a student that might have trouble. So, I mean, there are ways to do it, but it does come on the student to do that. And I really don't know a teacher who would say, no, sorry, I can't help you. I think, you know, I think it was Jay Shankar that mentioned how teachers are accountable as well. I mean, we are there for you. If a student reaches out, we have the office hours, we have free periods, and especially the way things are now with everybody working from home, I think, you know, if you say what time works for you, I think most teachers would agree to meet whenever you could figure it out. But that communication does have to come from the student. The testing, a week's notice, even with day-to-day instruction, sometimes can become that can be an unnecessary burden for teachers sometimes, especially with the way things are going now, with teaching every other day. I don't think a week is enough at this point because of the way everything is so compressed. I don't know. I also don't know how much is really needed. I've been asking students at Stuyvesant for 20 years who have claimed that they need a week, and rarely do I have the student that will actually study a week in advance or even manage their schedule a week in advance. And I mean, I don't question the work ethic. I just say that I don't think that week is needed. I think it actually causes more challenges than benefits, even for the students sometimes, when it would be better off to get a test, let's say on a Monday, it would be better off to say, you know what, we have to have a test this Friday, okay, for whatever reason, because the way the curriculum is going, we're moving really fast. If I wait another week, the next time for me to have a test will be farther removed from the work, the material that's going to be on the test. So sometimes that makes it even worse for the student as well. I think that's something we should consider.
Thank you,
I just want to say, I think 3 days is fine.
Thank you. Sarai.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I think first of all, it's really important for us as student representatives to understand that we're here representing not just ourselves. And so I think that Julian and Shivali and I are here on behalf of all students, and that doesn't just mean students who are, you know, extroverted enough to get on a Zoom call with adults. I mean, I think we're here for the students who really forgot to do their homework or sometimes have difficulty talking to people that are older than them. And it's obviously not an ideal. And I understand that in our perfect world, all Stuyvesant students would be super excited to communicate with all teachers and really able to handle that sort of effort. But the realistic truth is that it's not true. And I know students who've had immense difficulty at the school and who really need teacher support. And I think that part of what makes Stuyvesant so great is that we have brilliant teachers who are able to communicate really hard material and make it easy to digest for high schoolers. but that also requires that we be able to recognize that some students are going to have difficulties with that. And I think that what Shivali and Julian and I are trying to propose is a way to make that communication easier, which is why the survey idea is particularly important. I take in stride the office hours point. It isn't useful, and I understand why it might be sort of it might be annoying to have to jump on a Zoom call if no students are showing up, and I think that puts a burden on students really to take notice of the fact that if they're not doing well in a class, that they need to attend office hours and meet with their teachers and extend out that band. I don't know. But this conversation, I think, should really be centered around the non-ideal substance student that we know exists here and that needs an advocate too.
Thank you, Sarai. I just want to note that we're technically at the elapsed time for this agenda item, but given how ahead we are in this meeting, I'm going to extend us for at least another 5 minutes, and then we can check in and see where we want to go from there. I see Ms. Brandon's hand up.
We'll just get a quick nomination to extend, and then a second, and then we'll do it.
I see Mr. Henderson's hand, and I see Sarai's hand. Okay, Ms. Brandon.
And then Julian, actually, I'm next. And if Miss Siegel goes before Miss Brandon in the chat, if you can please keep an eye on that.
I was looking at the hands raised, and I know the co-hosts can't raise their hands. That's my bad.
No worries. But that's
do you want to go now? Or?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. So one, I understand the request for early notification of tests. And so like both, Sarai and Julian, you've both been in my class, and like for many teachers, like your tests are up like the unit before. So the day of your last test, in instances, you can know when your next test is. But I also think that we are very limited now in when we can give tests. And so we can only give tests once every 8 days. School days. So not even school days. So I can only give tests on A1 days. I'm not allowed to change that. My students are not allowed to vote for it. I'm already severely restricted. So I think it's also safe to assume, considering the amount of context you get, that an email to the teacher just being like, are we having tests on the next test day, is a really quick way to find out when your next test is. Because we are limited in when they are, and we know that there is a spiral of communication to reach out to the administration or to the teacher should a test happen on a day that it's not supposed to. But like, we already have test days that tells you when your test can be. And so what's going to be on that test is completely now different than it normally is, because I have to, I can't give a test for another week. I'm starting my entire new unit for 5 days before I can give my next test, because that's the way it falls, and because I can't alter this in any way. So that's my one point. And my other point is, I love the idea of a survey, and for if that's something that teachers fear would be beneficial to them. I'm just not sure that that's something that is something we can ask teachers to do across the board. I use my office hours. I make appointments for students that I see who are falling behind or who are missing work. I have students attend my AIS and my office hours every day. I can tell you who's struggling in my class. So I don't necessarily think that asking every teacher to do this is something that is a necessity across the board. We all have our ways of identifying and reaching out and helping those students. And I understand how it could be easier for students to reach out that way. But two of the things we really do try to teach at this school is one, that what Mr. Wasowski was pointing out is the need to learn to advocate for yourself and to speak up for yourself. But also on top of that is that it's one more survey and one more file and one more document that we then have to go through and scan through and process for my 110 students, when there might only be 3 who need help, on top of the hours of all of the work we're already doing to make these classes as amazing as we can in this remote world. It's just one more thing on top of all of the other things. And I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but for many teachers who aren't technologically advanced, who already feel like they are drowning in Google Docs and platforms as well, adding this extra expectation on them is just to look at it from the other perspective, is all I'm trying to say. And that's my comment.
Thank you, Ms. Maggio. I see Ms. Siegel's hand next.
Hi. Well, Ms. Maggio said a lot of the things that I was thinking of saying. So one was about the testing, which I do try to give at least a week's notice, but sometimes you realize you look at that calendar and you don't have a choice. With respect to first of all, let me just be clear here. I teach juniors and seniors, and I only teach AP courses. I have almost 170 students. I actually kind of have to tell you that I feel like I've gotten to know, in some ways, my students better because I see, I was just talking about this with Mr. Wisocki yesterday, everybody's in the front row. And so, in fact, I have been able to reach out to students who are struggling, and I have been able to see where students aren't doing as well. I have regularly, in fact, I think I close every class, maybe Julian can remind, he's actually happens to be a student, but like saying, don't forget, you can send me a Gmail, come make a, tell me about, if you want to come to office hours. I used to have a personal Zoom code and I could open up that office hour every day. And then they changed that for the DOE. I just want to say, I applaud that you want those students who feel kind of left behind or alone to have a mechanism to reach out. I think it might be different if it's for juniors and seniors than it would be for freshmen and sophomores. And maybe the thing that we need to think about is making this somehow a suggestion or finding a way to suggest it to teachers. I think you'll get more buy-in that way. I think Ms. Maggio is absolutely correct. I have almost 170 students. I can't imagine surveying them on a weekly basis. I would feel overwhelmed, but I also feel like I have met students at 7 o'clock at night because I've said, if you can't make it for my office hours, just send me an email. I'll set up a Zoom call. I'm home too. My husband hates it. But the point is that I think that most of your teachers really do want to go and do, and I don't have young children, okay? Let me be clear here. My children are 26 years old twins, so they're out of the house. But my point is that I think that your teachers are willing, and I agree also with Mr. Wisocki saying, you do have to learn to, that's a skill that you have to learn, is how to self-advocate. But I think we are trying to reach out to our students, and maybe there's some way, as I said, I close my class reminding students, don't forget, if you need anything, send me a Gmail, contact me, I'm available. Maybe that's all that the students need, but it's very hard. I want to applaud that you want to make sure those students are being reached out to. But I also want to tell you that many of us are, and the needs might be very different for the incoming freshman who feels like they wouldn't know where the bathroom was if we were in the building. So they don't know how to ask, the equivalent question for Zoom. And the junior or senior who has a certain level of, let's say, competence. And not every one of them do, but that is there. So I think I should stop talking.
Thank you, Ms. Siegel. Dr. Haber, okay. Given that, I think we're going to shift to Mr. Wisocki.
Actually, something to note, I've actually seen more out of class communication with remote teaching than in school. The kid that was late in the morning, or a kid that didn't do their homework even, or if they missed class, I've seen more communication from students now than I have when I was in the building. I don't know if it's because they're on their computer the entire day, or if because they only know me through Zoom, but it's actually kind of amazing. Even during class, I might get a private message. Sorry if I seem out of it, I don't feel well. Just whatever it is. I mean, you get the private message and I'm able to actually send a message back during class. So we just had like a private conversation about that kid's feelings or progress during class. Class wasn't disrupted at all. And it's weird. I mean, like Ms. Siegel said, we are building these relationships with the kids. It's different. I mean, I've actually come to the conclusion that the ideal world would be 3 days in STI and 2 days on Zoom, because you get to know the kids differently. So I do feel like it's there. So they can both hide behind their screen and keyboard and have that safety, but they have the familiarity of knowing who we are. So, I mean, I think it is happening, but I'm not gonna also take away from what Soraya was saying, how like we're the ones right now that are all volunteering our time and getting on the computer and talking to people, trying to figure out these problems, while there are kids and teachers at home that don't have this in them, maybe. I mean, I'm not saying teachers that don't want to help them, so I do like that, just people that don't have it in them to maybe reach out like that. But that's also why we have the guidance department, like Ms. Pedrick was saying, we're going through the numbers of how many check-ins they're doing, how they're reaching out. And I think the teachers are too, teachers that I've talked to. And like Ms. Siegel said, we see everybody's faces and the students see everybody's faces. That's something that doesn't happen in school. So if I see somebody who's nodding off or who may look uncomfortable, whatever it is, hey, are you okay? You know, we're able to do that. I mean, you know, coming up with maybe some suggestions for teachers, or maybe even interviewing teachers and asking some of their best practices, and students asking how their teachers have successfully reached out to them. You know, what has helped them, maybe compiling a lot of these stories of things that are already happening and putting that together could help both students and teachers.
Thank you, Mr. Rosatsky. We're coming up on time, so I'm gonna let Sarai talk, and then after that, we're gonna need to consider where we're at. So I'll let Sarai talk first.
Yeah, Mr. Wasatsu, you actually ended up saying a lot of what I wanted to get to. I do think it's important to recognize that we're all self-selected members, and I also understand that these anecdotes about what teachers are doing to communicate is really valuable. But you know, these are teachers who are also taking time out of their day to create school policy, and it's not always the case. I've had really good experiences, and I also know that there are students. I've had it like younger classmen or lower classmen tell me I don't understand how Stuyvesant works, and I'm freaking out. And I think that creating avenues for communication where we can talk about all of those experiences is really important. And so I think, given that we've had a lot of discussion about this, all sorts of hands have been raised. We still have hands that want to go, and this is clearly going to require a lot of communication and just idea building on both sides. I'd like to make a motion to create a subcommittee. I think that this is something we should talk about more, even if it's just to come up with a list of suggestions. Advice to talk to teachers and get the teacher perspective so that students understand what's going on both sides of the Zoom call. We can really create a more successful avenue of communication going forward.
Thank you, Sarai. So there's a motion on the floor right now. I'm going to defer to Ms. Maggio as to procedure with that, but the motion is to create a subcommittee. And I think the direction that this is going in, from the sense I've gotten from this discussion, is that it's not just about the agenda item relating to testing policies, but this is probably a larger conversation relating to academic policies in general, or conversations between students and teachers. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Maggio. What's the procedure we go through with this now?
I think we just, if you want to start a subcommittee, Ms. Daves, correct me if I'm wrong, the motion goes and then we vote. Is that correct? Or
Actually, we've never voted on it. We
or
don't-
I'm consensus? I'm
but
sorry.
There are regulations regarding it. You need to have an administrator on the subcommittee, administrator on the subcommittee, and I just have to double check the bylaws. I do believe it's
two parents, yeah.
Right, 2 parents, a teacher member, and a student member.
And don't forget the student.
Thank you, Mr. Rosatsky. We won't do that in the future.
Do we need to have a stated goal for the subcommittee?
Generally, there's a title, I think. So, but I think we all have a general sense of what we're talking about here, I hope. So with that said, I guess there's 2 things to discuss then. Well, not just two points. One, I think we should see if there's consensus around forming a subcommittee. And then 2, I know there are still some hands raised. We can, postpone that to the next meeting or to the subcommittee meeting, or if there's, favorable consensus around this, we can listen to more people because we have excess time. So first, I want to see if is there consensus around the formation of a subcommittee to discuss, to continue the discussion that we started today around academic policies and
Dr.
around
Haber,
student-teacher relationships.
Dr. Haber, do you have a question or a comment? I see your hand is up and you're muted.
A quick comment, this is now almost 3 years for me, and I can't imagine a more dedicated student body, amazing student body. But I want to tell the students too that getting to know the teachers more, in almost 3 years, I can't imagine a more dedicated, yes, they're super smart, we know that, but a more dedicated, they care so much about their students. The teachers care so much. They'll drive administration crazy even to make sure they get everything they need to make sure that they can deliver instruction, the best possible instruction for their students.
Julian, just to put focus on this, should the committee be something like a review of virtual learning so that we can review all these different points of testing, office hours, posting in Google Classroom, that type of thing? Should it be under this virtual umbrella?
That sounds great. Thank you, Ms. Pedrick. Yeah, I think that totally is a good umbrella for it to be encapsulated under. So I guess the next step is, can I see like a show of hands around consensus for the formation of the subcommittee, and then we'll do that first.
Just as a reminder, only alternates don't vote. Sorry. Or don't go to consensus. Sorry.
Okay. I think we're seeing general consensus here, which is good. So the next step would be to find a chair for the subcommittee and to find who the members of the subcommittee are going to be, and we need to make sure we have the mandatory members. I've never created a subcommittee before while still taking a meeting. So does anyone want to volunteer to be the chair of the subcommittee?
Should we just do who wants to be a member first?
I'm gonna oh, go ahead, Mr.
I'm raising my hand not to volunteer, but as a suggestion or as a question. Would it make sense to have, since this is coming from the students, would it make sense to have a student lead it?
I completely agree with that. I was just gonna give a nomination to Sarai, who I think was about to raise her hand to volunteer for the position. Is that correct, Sarai?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So we have a chair for the subcommittee. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Maggio, I don't think we have a procedure for how we determine if members are on the subcommittee. Maybe a good thing to do right now would be for members who want to participate in the subcommittee to raise their hands.
Yeah, you can ask. We've gotten a list before, and then this way Sarai can reach out.
Fantastic. Okay. And Mr. Wazowski, can you include this list in the minutes to share with us? I'm seeing.
Ms. Pedrick, Shivali, Ashvin. I'm sorry, Mr. Jajankar. Patrick, are you raising your hand or itching your ear? Mr. Sunwoo, Miss Brandon, Wasowski, Julian.
And alternates are allowed to join subcommittees as well.
Parents, love you. We need 2 of you. We can't have a subcommittee without you.
Miss Ju's hand is raised.
And Miss Song's hand is raised. And Miss Zhang's hand is raised. Oh, and Miss Ju's hand is raised.
Got it.
Okay. I just want to again just remind everybody that the principal, upon leaving, is happy to hear suggestions and recommendations, but that this is not whatever comes out of this subcommittee is not something that is ultimately going to be brought for consensus or instituted into policy. This is going to the administration, who are then going to be taking these considerations and recommendations and ideas and then bringing them back to their departments to see how this information can be used. But
Ms. Maggio, in the past, subcommittees have been created that have formed policies before, right?
Yes,
Like,
I
think there was
understand. But STC is a advisory committee. It is not a policy making committee, and we're going back to that actual role of the STC. What are we? SLT. And so, yes, what comes out of the subcommittee will be presented to the SLT. It will be given to the principal and the admin, and then where they take it from there is at the admin's discretion.
Okay.
Particularly since this is an academic issue, as testing is a pedagogical issue, as opposed to a
quite often
democratic
SLT
issue.
comes up with great ideas that adopt it. So that's perhaps what we're thinking.
So we have some time left. Yeah, Julian?
I was going to say, I see Ms. Dave's hand raised.
Oh, God. Sorry, Ms. Daves.
Mr. Wasowski, could you read the names back so I just make sure I have them all mentally in?
Pedrick, Shivali, Jayshankar, Wasowski, Sunwoo, Brandon, Julian, Ju, Song, Zhang.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Wazowski, would you be able to send that list to Sarai so that she can coordinate with the subcommittee? Thank you.
And then Sarai, let me know if you need any emails and I can get you the email list. Because I'm not sure. I think you can check it. If Miss Acevedo's emails, I think you can pull down the email list from the group email, but just in case, let me know and I'll get them for you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I still see we have some alternate hands raised. Do these alternates still wish to speak, or do you want to join the subcommittee? Keep your hands up if you still want to speak. Okay, so technically we have to do another motion here. Can I get a motion to extend the meeting time by another 5 minutes? Okay, can I see a second? There we go. Okay, Miss Brandon, the floor is yours.
Hey, thank you, everyone. So really quick, I think with Julian, Sarai, and Shivali, you guys are doing a great job. And to implement this. And I also agree with Ms. Maggio and Ms. Siegel. I see everyone's perspective. I'm really concerned for our freshmen because the counselors, we are always advertising AIS, we're always advertising Arista, we're always advertising teacher office hours. Now that we're in the midst of doing our freshman meetings and sophomore meetings, the students know that there is AIS and Arista, but they don't know what it is. They do not know what it entails. So perhaps making a suggestion in, you know, having the teachers kind of like also advertise it, you know, why don't you just, you know, see, you know, someone from, you know, Arista or AIS and kind of explaining to the students, you know, what this service is for the students, especially for the freshmen and the sophomores. And also if the students can also do that, kind of like distinguish what's the difference, what are the pros, what are the cons. After meeting with my students, and I'm sure the counselors meeting with their students, they kind of have an idea of what it is now. So if that can kind of help a little bit. So any way that the counselors can always support you guys, just let us know.
Thank you, Ms. Brandon. Ms. Giordano?
Hi, I have two comments. One, I wanted to, on behalf of all the parents, the textbook issue that Sarai brought up is hugely important to many parents and has been brought to the PA many times. There are a lot of families who feel like their students are spending too much time looking at screens, and the fact that they have all their reading on screens is causing many families to go out and buy and search for textbooks. And I'd like to just bring that up. I know the administration was in the process of collecting textbooks. I know we have some textbooks. And if there's any possibility whatsoever to make some textbooks available, as we know, not all students or families want the textbooks, but for families who would want them and we have them, I would please try to make that available to people. And my second quick comment is just in regards to teacher office hours. I'm not sure, but I believe that the fact that every teacher at the school has the exact same office hours, and the fact that our students have 10 periods a day means they can only go to one office hours on an afternoon, and usually they're picking the subject that's probably the one that's most difficult for them, which means there are a lot of teachers not getting people showing up for their office hours. And that might be something to consider, having staggered office hours.
Thank you, Mr. Giordano. Mr. Sunwoo?
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to say, with respect to the subcommittee, I'll just something that I wanted to bring up. I think that the points that are brought up are really important. I would say in terms of ensuring that it's focused and fair to both teachers as well as students, and of course, to ensure that's equitable to all students, including the students who are doing well in quite a number of classes, and also students who are struggling in certain classes, just to ensure that like maybe there's a focus on something like, you know, if the majority of the grade is testing, maybe focusing on that and seeing like if there's a way to focus office hours on that or something like that. I don't know, maybe that could be part of the subcommittee's goals. I'm just putting that out there. I'm not necessarily saying that like that's a suggestion, just an idea. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sunwoo. And that reminds me that non-SLT members are allowed to be subcommittee members. So if there are teachers, students, or parents who are interested in joining as well, they can do that by reaching out to Sarai. Ms. Maggio?
Yeah, if we can just, we have some webinar viewers that requested to have comments when we have observer comments time. And I think we have some time and we can fit them in and get out early, which I think for everybody is a win-win situation. Am I right, people? Yeah? Okay, so I have a list. Let me find it because Miss Ingram sent it to me earlier because she's all over her job.
You know, there are some that are not in attendance.
Okay, so we'll is
the first one that you wanted to start with? I will
is he
unmute.
here because let's have our only student who put in a comment to have our student chat.
Yeah, in just 1 second. Yes, you can go ahead and call on him.
Let's go, Justin Murdoch. What's up, yo?
Hey, Miss Maggio.
How you
Nice to hear from
doing?
you. I'm doing well. What about you?
I'm really good. Miss you in Urban.
Great, great. Love to hear it. How's Urban? Oh wait, Urban Eco's not. being
No, not
offered this
running.
year, unfortunately.
Okay, what's your comment?
Down with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I love to hear the progress made during this meeting. I think that a subcommittee regarding academic policy is an incredibly effective measure to build that bridge between parents, students, administrators, and teachers alike. I think that the general consensus here is promising, and I trust that everyone here will come with great policies in mind. I think that maintaining those bridges, especially through surveys, I'm not sure on specifics regarding that, that may be nice, especially to help those students who may be a bit wary about reaching out, as Ms. Brandon, Julian, Chevalier, and many other teachers have reiterated. And yeah, well, thank you.
I think next we have Abdul Amin. I think they're in here and they need to unmute, I think.
Yeah, he can unmute himself.
And Ms. Maggio, you're not muted, but we can't hear you
Yeah, we can't hear you.
anymore.
Oh, I think
Yeah, my computer's doing this now, so every once in a while my volume just goes out while I'm talking. It's super fun in class.
Yeah, it's really low.
Abdul Alim?
Mr. Alim, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you so much. No, the questions that I wanted to ask is already answered, so I have no question or comment. Thank you so much.
Thomas Yu is next. I think, Julian, you're going to have to moderate because we can't hear Miss Maggio.
Okay, I don't have the list of people
So,
speaking.
yeah,
yet,
so
sorry.
I just called on one person. Let's see. I think Thomas should be here and be able to unmute himself. Mr. Yu?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tonight. I think this was a very effective and it's a great discussion about how we can improve our environment. And so really appreciate it from the parents' perspective. I think one more is, so can we sort of gather all the information from the students and get their feedback more effectively so that we can effectuate more effective mechanisms to improve the quality? What do you suggest in the interim to collect that information?
Thank you, Mr. Yu. I can jump in here as a student, and then if anyone raises their hands, they can respond as well. But the SLT, all the constituencies conducted a survey for the last SLT meeting where we collected a lot of great feedback from students especially, and we presented it. And I think that data might be online. And the student union, we regularly run surveys of students, and that's how we generally bring those results to the school leadership team. But I completely agree with you. I think there's a lot more spaces and opportunities for us to reach out to students and get feedback, maybe in more ways than just surveys. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier is, students can join the subcommittee even if they're not on the SLT. So that might be something that would be interesting to get different student perspectives than just, Sarai, me, and Chevalier trying to represent 3,400 students. Does anyone else have anything to add before we go to the next observer comment? No? Okay, I think Ayla Alriaz, sorry for the mispronunciation, is next.
That's all right. Thank you so much. Thank you all. We're very grateful to you. I want to refer you to the comments in takeaways 4 and 5 from the student survey. And first of all, I'm just wondering whether any of the students on this committee are actually in the blended model, or is everyone remote? Okay, so I just wanted to speak to the experience of my daughter who is in blended, and refer you to takeaways 4 and 5 from opinions of students in the blended survey. One student wrote that Stuyvesant has killed any love I had for learning and stunted my growth as a person, even more so this semester. I am exhausted, I'm struggling, and I'm afraid that I'm losing my humanity. Another student added, my health is deteriorating, and from being on screen for 10 hours a day for class and homework, it's getting harder to actually be healthy. So these were from the survey, the student survey. Those two eloquent students could actually be speaking to the experience of my own daughter, a junior, who was very excited to go back to school under the blended model. Blended has proven a great disappointment, however. only aggravating the defects of remote learning. And that's my own opinion, not hers. Our children are suffering. Is this really debatable? My question is simple. When and under what circumstances can teachers offer some in-class instruction, especially considering that very few kids are or remain in blended learning? When will the school begin to facilitate student socialization and to bring back a modicum of humanity and empathy to their lives? I deeply care very much about our teachers' safety, but I also care about our children's health and education. Are these two concerns mutually exclusive? And if they are, until when? What are the benchmarks that would allow our teachers to return to the classroom? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And just a reminder, thank you, Ms. Maggio, for saying this in the chat. Try to keep your comments restricted to 1 minute. I'm going to turn this over. I think, Principal, you talked about this a bit at the beginning of the chat, but maybe Ms. Pedrick, do you want to clarify and respond or not?
About teachers teaching live?
Oh, well, the point that I recalled was about like socialization opportunities, more increase in blended, and I think Principal, you mentioned that that's something that they're going to be looking into as they reprogram.
Okay, yeah, sure, I can speak to that. So it's a challenge to say the least, but it is something that we desperately would like to do. So for the students who are coming in, a few of the things that we have implemented is for freshman students. I'm not sure what grade level the gentleman who just spoke, his daughter is in, but freshmen and smattering of sophomores, or just people who want to take a walk, are doing tours around the building. So they're getting to know their neighborhood as far as the school goes and getting to know where they can find people and places when school gets back to normal. We've taken students who are on their free time outside when the weather was cooperating. We've tossed around a football and enjoyed the sunshine, eating our lunch outside. We did set up 3 ping pong tables that I've yet to see used. 2 are outside the 3rd floor gym and 1 is outside, or excuse me, 2 are outside the 5th floor cafeteria, 1 is outside the 3rd floor gym. Before we ended, and we're told to start doing from home last week, we did get a oversized Connect 4 set. And we put it together. Mr. Moran and I know Ms. Maggio. Mr. Moran and I tested it out, to make sure it was safe for students. And then we went around and couldn't get anybody to play. And then, like literally 5 minutes after we got word that we were going full remote, I got a gigantic chess set delivered to the school. So those Connect 4 and chess set, by the way, courtesy of our wonderful alumni association. They asked for a wish list, and I'm like, do you guys have a budget for oversized games? So hopefully those are some ways where we can have students socially distance and be safe, but also be able to have a break and socialize.
Thank you, Ms. Pedrick. Dr. Haber, did I see you raise your hand?
I believe I understand is that the parent is asking about actual instruction, like classroom instruction, that what he's asking for is, is there a way to, to incorporate actual face-to-face, not over the internet, not remote learning. So that was, we could have well designed it that way, but through many meetings, many subcommittees and committees, and with the SLT, with the teachers, the administrators, parents, over the whole summer, it felt like from the spring through the summer, what was prioritized, what was considered the essence of Stuyvesant High School was the wide, or one of the highest priorities was the wide variety of offerings. That is the course catalog. And so there was many people involved, but a plan was put together which kept the course catalog, largely kept the course catalog. AP classes, in fact, there's over 5,000 some odd students sign up for over 5,000 something exam. So we basically kept the course catalog, maybe not every elective. And that's what we asked to do. And I don't want to say now that it is the two things are not compatible. That you have the course catalog and to have in-person learning. It's just not, I'm not saying it couldn't be done on a very small basis, but to scale, it's just not, it's not feasible.
Thank you, Dr. Haber. I think we have one last observer comment from Patrick Yu.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you.
Hi. I guess you can basically answer all my questions, but are you guys saying that blended is, I don't know if I missed that, but is the blended going to be coming back soon? Or is on hold based on Department of Education guidelines or the city guidelines?
So I can answer that. We do not have information on that. We do not know if we're going back to school on Monday. We could be we could be told we're going back to school on Monday. After Thanksgiving, we don't have the information at this time.
All right, that's fine. That's you guys answer all my questions.
Ms. Ingram, did you have a comment?
I did. I just wanted to add to what Dr. Haber had explained about the decision, the exception model in earlier conversations with Mr. Yu. So we get this question a lot. When will we be able to do face-to-face instruction again? And this body, of course, understands that when you made the decision to have 75% of the course catalog available and to do fully remote instruction, that came with many AP courses and other courses that are a full year. So we knew that understanding going in that you would not take half the semester, that unless we had somewhat of a return to normalcy where we can be in the building, we would not be able to program for face-to-face instruction with a full year. So right at this point, it's not looking like, we're full remote now, and it doesn't look like going into spring programming that we could possibly plan that way. So we just have a small reminder of what we went through. It felt like a whole school year within the summer in those couple of months of discussing how if we did this, it would potentially mean that we would have to continue remote instruction for the length of that annual course, because it runs a year. And I think Dr. Haber has something else to add too.
Yes, just to continue what you're saying here is just to note though, the model allows for absolutely we can all go back to school if that vaccine came, if it was available and we could get everyone back in, we can program the whole school exactly the way without any loss of any of the coursework. So it is like a reversible jacket in a sense. It can go fully remote or fully in school, but it's just not set up to allow the in person with the remote.
Thank you, Dr. Haber, for clarifying that. That's what really allowed you all to have students to have your Stuyvesant teachers and not substitutes, because when they close schools, we just go back and forth right between school and home.
Thank you, Ms. Ingram and Dr. Haber. I just want to note, Sarai Shveli and I have been trying for the past 10 minutes to send Sarai's email to the chat for people who want to be on the subcommittee. And we've all sent it to all panelists, and it doesn't seem like any of our messages have gone through. So I will say Sarai's email out loud for those of you who would like to
Or
email her.
they could email me.
Yeah, I think that we'll set up an alternate way because this is a public meeting.
Yeah, so to protect Sarai's privacy, anybody who is outside the SLT who wishes to be a member of this awesome subcommittee led by Sarai can email me at C, P as in Peter, E, D as in David, RICK at schools.nyc.gov, or more simply, Ms. Pedrick at sty.edu. All goes the same way. Thank you, Ms. Ingram. And also, I was writing into the panel, all panelists too, and it wasn't going through either for before. So
I will
another fun Zoom weird thing.
I'm not sure you all have the same settings, so sorry about that.
Thank you, Ms. Ingram. Okay, so I think we are pretty much done. Ms. Maggio, is there anything else we need to cover, or are we ready for a motion to adjourn? I see a motion to adjourn. A second? Yes? Okay, 15 minutes early. It's a record.
All over this job.
Okay, have a nice evening, everyone, and see you next month.
Thank you very much. Happy Thanksgiving.